Hello and welcome to Wild Mouse. I'm your host, Taylor Bartle, and my treasured guest today is an artist and a podcaster who co-hosts the Grave Plot podcast with some jabroni. Please welcome to the show, Tony G, aka SkeleTony.
Hey, it's
Hey,
me.
a thunderous round of applause.
I'm in the show.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
For people who may not know, Tony co-hosts the Grave Plot podcast with me. I am the co-host of that, and
Yes.
we talk about spooky stuff.
So spooky. Spoopy, even.
Some might say. And today we are continuing that trend of talking about spooky stuff by talking about the Haunted Mansion. Specifically the one in California.
Yes.
We are not talking about the one in Florida. We're not talking about the Haunted Manor in Paris. We're not talking about the Mystic Manor in Shanghai or Hong Kong. Hong Kong, I believe.
Hong Kong.
Nope. Just California, because that's the only one Tony has been to.
From the sound of it, it's the only one I need to go to.
I mean, basically, the nicest thing about the one in Florida is that it doesn't do the holiday overlay.
They don't?
Nope. So it's just Haunted Mansion all year round.
That is nice. I'm jealous of that.
Yeah, I mean, we won't get too much into the Haunted Mansion holiday because that will eventually be its own episode. But I'm sure it will come up because I know. I mean, last time me and Tony went together, that's what was there. So
Last 2 times.
That's true. The last 2 times, because we went for Halloween, so of course they had the Christmas overlay.
Naturally, because what's better for Halloween than Christmas?
Halloween. That would be my answer, anyways. I don't know. I'm weird like that. So a little history about the Haunted Mansion. The Haunted Mansion was basically Walt went to the Imagineers and he said, "Hey, I want a Haunted Mansion, so make that." And they went, okay. He didn't really give them any more specifics than that, and so they didn't know if he wanted it to be scary or if he wanted it to be funny. And so they kind of went back and forth. One Imagineer wanted it to be funny, one wanted it to be scary, and in fact, they were making some of the prototypes and stuff, and it was so scary that the janitors at the Imagineering studio didn't want to clean that room. And so they requested that they leave the lights on in that room when they went home for the day so that these cleaners could see what was going on in there. But so what they did was they rigged a timer so that the lights would be off, but when the cleaners would go in there in the middle of the night, the lights would come on. And I don't know if things would like pop up and actually like come to life or if it was just the lights popping on, but they made it so that they would scare the crap out of these guys in the middle of the night.
Well, you have to.
Sure, yeah. I mean, if someone tells you that they're going to be scared of something innocuous like that, then of course you go out of your way to just scare the shit out of them.
Yeah, I mean, just as human beings, I think our first impulse when somebody tells us that they're scared of something is to immediately expose them to that.
It's to scare them, yeah.
Yeah.
So some of the original sketches, and this was back in like the 1950s, early 1960s, some of the early sketches had a more traditional haunted house, what you might expect to see in like, the Bates Motel or a standard haunted house ride from a theme park, just run down, shutters kind of falling off, broken windows, cobwebs everywhere. And Walt said no. He said, "I want my Haunted Mansion to be pristine on the outside so that you aren't expecting all these ghosts and goblins inside. There's no goblins. It's just ghosts."
Yeah, and I mean, with I guess New Orleans Square hadn't actually been built yet, but the whole concept of Disneyland at the time, well, it still maintains, I guess, is to be this all-encompassing world that you step into. It's like outside the normal world, and it was all bright and shiny, and the rest of the park was like that. And so for them to build some strange run down old house in the middle of all this bright and shiny construction.
Yeah, right off Main Street.
Right.
Yeah. So and Walt had visited the Winchester Manor, the Winchester Mystery House, and was like, this is a pristine, gorgeous mansion, but with this history and these stories of all these ghosts, that's basically what I want. And so, they went back to the drawing board and they kind of modeled it after a lot of southern, like Tony said, it's in New Orleans Square, so they modeled it after a lot of the like New Orleans style farmhouses and stuff, and built the mansion as we know it today. The other thing about the original idea for the Haunted Mansion is that it was going to be a walkthrough. It wasn't originally supposed to be a ride. And so it was just going to be kind of like a haunt that you might go to at your local fairgrounds or something, Yeah. And I wonder... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, that would have gotten, like, tedious.
Yeah, I wonder if there would have been scare actors as opposed to just animatronics.
I don't know. Because I think this is really a more grandiose version of something you might see at, a county fair.
Sure, yeah.
It's a lot of gags and spooky stuff and otherwise cheap ride. And so I don't know that like haunts as we know them today were all that popular back in the 50s, 60s.
Yeah, not that I know of.
So yeah, I think if that would have been the case, if there would have been like actual haunters in there, it would have been, I don't know, revolutionary is the right word, but ahead of its time, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you got to figure by now, like even if that was the original plan, by now things would have changed just because, unions.
Yeah.
And if they could replace them with animatronics, I bet they probably would. Spider-Man says hi. So eventually they decided not to do the walkthrough, and they're going to do this Omni Mover. Of course, we all know the Doom Buggy. And we'll get more into that in a little bit. But the Haunted Mansion was completed in 1961. And they started handing out flyers saying, hey, Haunted Mansion's opening. Come check out the opening of the Haunted Mansion. And it just never opened. The World's Fair took place, and Walt was drawn away to kind of focus on that. If you don't know, Disney did a lot of stuff for the World's Fair in, I think it was 1961. And then after that, unfortunately, Walt passed away. So Walt Disney never actually saw the opening of the Haunted Mansion. And so, you almost kind of think there's this whole thing about 999 ghosts, and I think that was Walt's idea. And then, there's always room for one more. And it's kind of like, is Walt the 1,000th ghost? Is that too dark?
Yeah. Well, it's like, I don't know if they really not planned it that way, because it kind of predated his death, but, it's something that might be kind of like just like park lore, that maybe they don't really talk about.
Right.
But, I mean, if there were ghosts, I think Walt would definitely be one of them. I think his blood, sweat, and tears are all over that park.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And, Walt never wanted to be a character, and I guess there's actually a lot of kind of contention over the new Walt animatronic that's going into Disneyland with his estate. But so, like, you would never see a Walt ghost in the ride. I guess I kind of misspoke. In 1961 is when they started advertising it, but the ride actually was completed in 1963. It was previewed in 1965 in an episode of Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color, but it did not actually open until 1969. So there was 6 years between when they finished it and the ride finally opened.
10 years before they started talking about it.
Yeah. The World's Fair was actually in 1964, and then Walt passed in 1966.
Yeah, the World's Fair, Disney had a lot of, it was like 3 or 4 installations in the World's Fair. And a couple of them actually came back to Disneyland after the fair. It's the People Mover, or no, sorry, not People Mover. Carousel of Progress, and was it Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln?
Yes, and that's where the Walt animatronics actually going, is in Mr. Lincoln, if they're going to like alternate. I don't know if it's like a stage that spins around or how exactly they switch it over, but apparently there's going to be, because they're still keeping Mr. Lincoln.
Yeah, it's Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln.
Well, I mean, they could change it to Great Moments with Mr. Disney. But does the thing? My biggest problem with Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln is it doesn't have him up in the balcony watching Hamlet.
Acty!
Rewind the play 5 minutes. Listen to the woman, John.
That fat bitch was talking.
What'd you say, Skinny? What'd you say, you fat piece of shit? And then, of course, we all know that fateful night, Abraham Lincoln was hammered in the ass until he died from being hammered in the ass. Okay, so back to the Haunted Mansion.
Right, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. There's, the ghost of Abraham Lincoln is in there with his hammered ass. The final edition of the ride as we know it was mostly created by Raleigh Crump and Yale Gracie, which that last name may sound familiar. If you're familiar with the Haunted Mansion, it's Gracie Manor. And Raleigh Crump he's a very famous Imagineer. And have you watched the behind the attraction on this?
Maybe.
Raleigh Crump these days, or at least when the show was filmed, just looks like your like average old man. Just kind of old guy, gray beard, But man, I tell you, that guy was a stud when he was young.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's got like this big handlebar mustache with the swirly bits at the end. Like,
all right,
he was something to behold.
So much pussy.
I bet he did. I bet Raleigh Crump crushed ass. I bet a lot of the Imagineers did, actually.
Yeah, I mean, especially after Disneyland, was 10, 15, 20 years old. I'm sure, yeah. Especially even after, like, Disney World opened. I'm sure being an Imagineer was a very popular thing in the bars.
Yeah, I can get you backstage at Mr. Lincoln. What's up? You want to see what's under the top hat? But so, I mean, everybody knows the ride, but if you think about it, basically what they did when they couldn't decide if they wanted to be scary or funny, they kind of just did both.
Yeah. They went through, what is it? I think it was like 3 different iterations of the story before they got to the one they landed on.
Yeah.
The one that Walt approved. Well, the first one was grim.
And did you have details on that? Or
so what they were planning was going to be called Bloodmead Manor. It was basically the mansion itself was a Louisiana mansion. Antebellum is the architecture type. Plantation houses and stuff. Those are antebellum mansions. So the story was that this mansion was deconstructed and rebuilt in Disneyland, but it was a run-down, ramshackle building that was being rebuilt. And, legend has it that all the Disney construction workers were seeing ghosts wandering around the mansion itself.
I thought you were going to say we're killed during construction and we're now living in the house.
But this was the mansion was supposed to be like the former mansion of the Blood family, who were all, I think it was like a murder-suicide.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was grim.
That's really dark for Disney.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Walt saw that and was like,
we're not doing that.
Yeah. And then there was another iteration that was a little closer to what we have now. But I think Walt turned that down too. Ultimately we landed on the Gracie Mansion, Gracie Manor story.
Yeah, and a bunch more people kind of came on board after Walt passed, and so that's why there's kind of a different vibe in different parts of the ride, is because basically it's just a lot of hands in the cookie jar, and a lot of cooks in the kitchen, including Mark Davis and Claude Coates, who are kind of the main designers of the ride as we know it today. Okay, so let's just kind of get into it. I mean, first things first, you got to go through that big gate with the big sign, that famous sign, the like green marbling, says the Haunted Mansion. Tony's got a really good Hatbox Ghost piece on his Redbubble store you should go check out, and it uses the frame of this sign.
I've actually got them on my website now.
Oh, wow, fancy you. Look at me, I have a website.
Yeah, it was painstakingly put together. I'm very proud of it.
Guys, go check out Tony's website. One side goes off to the lightning lane, one side goes off to the main queue. We're going to do the main queue so we can talk about everything in it.
Have you seen a picture from probably as recently as like the early 70s, late 70s maybe, of the entrance?
I don't think so.
Just gates, path, door.
Just right to the door?
Yep.
Oh, man. Wouldn't that be sweet?
Yeah, the whole crisscross thing, the whole queue thing that's in place now, none of that was there. It was all trees and vegetation that they ultimately knocked down to build this whole grave scene.
Wow. And this is, we're recording this before the new queue opens.
So I forgot they were redoing it again.
Yeah, they're adding a whole bunch of new stuff even. But yeah, this ride has a strong queue. Some of the rides are just kind of like, oh, let's stand in line and watch people go by on, Big Thunder or whatever. But this one has a pretty strong queue. So you walk in these gates and you immediately pass this carriage. Nothing really interesting about it, I guess. It's just it's it looks like Cinderella's carriage, but it's kind of spookier.
Well, it's a hearse.
Yeah, but not like as we know that, like it's not a long black car.
Right. Yeah, it's a hearse as they were before cars existed.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be, it's got like a whole horse bridle set up, but no horse. So I guess it's just presumed that there's a ghost horse.
Well, in the Eddie Murphy movie, there was ghost horses.
Sure, yeah.
They dragged, what's his name, Wallace Shawn around.
Inconceivable.
He yells that in the movie, yeah.
And that's where it came from.
That's right. And no other movies. Yes, you snake around and you go by this pet cemetery. And it's really interesting about the pet cemetery. You'll see all these different tombstones and they all kind of say something, here lies so-and-so, and it's a little rhyme or whatever. But they added little things like to stimulate your senses. Like there's a tombstone for a skunk and they put some kind of plant. I don't remember what it is, but some kind of plant that emits this odor that smells almost like a skunk spray. And, there's a rabbit and I think there's, carrots planted there or something. Just all these little kind of extra touches that just make Disney Disney.
Yeah. And this applies to the park in general. There's all these tiny little intricacies that most people probably never notice, but they're there. And so when you do notice them, they're kind of like a, an Easter egg, I guess.
Yeah, it's a little, if you know kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so after you pass the pet cemetery, then you snake around the back of the building. And there's some more tombstones there. It's just kind of like, here lies whatever pun.
There's some gravestones for actual characters in the mansion.
That's true, yeah. And so you snake around the back, and then you get onto like the big moment. You get onto the porch, and that's when you're just like, "Oh man, I know we're close now because I'm on the physical building.
I can see it. I am touching it now.
I'm physically touching you now, Bob." And so you get on the porch and you go around the corner and you get to the front door. And if you're me and Tony, they stop you and say, "Sorry, ride's broken.
Broken.
Go away. We will not honor your fast pass." And we said,
that
no.
actually worked out to our benefit, though.
Yeah, we said nay. We said we will wait until finally they said, "Fine, we'll honor your fast pass. Just go away."
Don't let anybody tell you that persistence doesn't work.
That's right. We didn't. We finally got on the ride later. We didn't get on the ride that particular time, but finally they were just like, "All right, we'll honor the fast pass. Just please leave."
Right. Yeah, we ultimately went out and did some other cool shit and then walked onto the ride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we came back, got right on. And once you walk into the parlor. They say, everybody, get as far against the wall as you can so we can get as many people in. They bring people in, open up the door, let you into the big room. I don't know what exactly they call this room. Just the parlor, I guess. I know it's the stretching room, but they don't call it the stretching room because that breaks kayfabe.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, the
parlor?
art gallery. Okay.
Oh, all right.
Which I guess you hear the ghost host before you enter the art gallery. I thought it was later. It wasn't until you enter the art gallery. But I think it is when you're in the foyer. You get the welcome, foolish mortals.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the
foyer,
the stretching room. Yeah, the foyer. Yeah, I thought that's what you were talking about. But yeah, so the hallway after the stretching room.
I'm talking about before the stretching room.
There's something before the stretching room?
Yeah, just a little. It's a little foyer. And then they open the walls, and then you walk into the stretching room. Then they close the walls behind you.
I don't know how I'm spacing on this.
I don't either. But that's when the ghost host comes on, and he introduces himself as the ghost host. And yeah, then they let you into the art gallery, and of course the room starts stretching. And the secret reason why the room actually stretches is because you're on an elevator, basically, and you're going down underground.
I was in my 20s before this finally occurred to me. And I grew up in California, so I've been to Disneyland a lot. So yeah, it didn't even occur to me that we were moving underground.
Again, it's just that Disney magic where they they are able to make going down an elevator seem like part of the show. And so, yeah, the room starts stretching and all the paintings stretch out and they all turn spooky. We see one of them as an elderly woman holding a rose, and as it stretches, you realize she's sitting on a tombstone. And we see a bust of a man named George with a hatchet in his head. So apparently she's an axe murderer. We see a bearded man holding a piece of paper, and as the room stretches, it's revealed that he is not wearing pants and is standing on a dynamite keg with a candle lighting the fuse. Don't really know.
How you.
What?
I was gonna say, that's how you stand on a keg. You don't wear pants.
Apparently.
It's a rule.
Let's see. We see a young woman holding a parasol, and then as it stretches, a young girl holding a parasol, and as the room stretches, we see that she is standing on a tightrope over an alligator. And then the last one, we see a man with crossed arms, and as it's revealed, he's being carried by another man, and they are sinking into quicksand. So yeah, at first it's, this very nice art, and then as it stretches, you're just like, oh no, this is all weird and creepy. Meanwhile, the ghost host is talking over all this, telling you, giving you the story of the manor and all this stuff, and then saying, you might notice there's no walls, or there's no windows and no doors, which begs the question, how do you get out? This next part may be going away. That's the rumor. But the lights go out, and he says, there's always my way. And there's a flash of lightning, and if you look up, you can see his body hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah, it's way up in a like a belfry.
Right. Yeah, there's not like a mannequin hanging from the ceiling or anything. It's above the, you see through the glass skylight or whatever it is. But yeah, there's rumors that's going to go away for, obviously suicide awareness. And
yeah, I mean, they've done, any number of changes at Disney parks for, various PC reasons. But it's like something like that. It's kind of part of the thrill of the show, I guess. And so I kind of hate to see it go. But
yeah, I'm of two minds on it, because it's
Me
the
too.
Haunted Mansion. It's supposed to be creepy. We're already dealing with with ghosts and murder and just death in general. But also, I get it. Suicide is a very real issue.
Yeah.
And it's, so yeah, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I'm just a guy with a podcast. But so we hear a woman shriek, and the ghost host says, I apologize. I didn't mean to scare you prematurely. And then one of the walls opens, and now you're in the long hallway. Did you know there's a mode where the ghost host tells people to shut up?
Nope.
I don't know if this is like a switch that a cast member hits or what, but apparently if people are quoting along with the ghost host, there's a different mode where he'll be like, we get it, you're an annual pass holder, but some people have never been on this ride, so please let me do my thing.
Oh, I had no idea.
I just saw that on Instagram today, actually.
Like actual, like recording of it?
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up.
So yeah, you go down the long hallway, and outside, you walk by these windows. They're windows. You're actually underground at this point, and it's raining outside. There's thunder and lightning. And the reason you go underground is because if you look at the size of the Haunted Mansion outside, there's no way this ride fits in that building.
Right.
So you actually go underground. You actually go outside the park. In fact, you go under the berm, and you go into this big giant warehouse. Essentially, that's where the ride actually takes place. So you go down the long hallway, and if you look, there's paintings along the wall. And as the lightning strikes, the paintings will change. They'll become skeletal, or they'll be there's a ship that becomes like a pirate ship, and like a ghost pirate ship, and just different scenes flashing as you walk down the hallway. And when you get to the end, there's these busts that actually follow you as you walk. And the way they do this is that it's actually concave as opposed to the other one.
Convex.
I got two people telling me. So it's actually like concave, and the faces are in there, and as you walk by, it makes it look like they are actually following you.
Yeah, that's an old school trick that they repurposed.
A lot of what goes on in the Haunted Mansion is just like old magician's tricks. So at this point, you walk onto the Doom Buggy, which is an omni-mover, which means it never stops. And so you get on a moving track, and you jump into the Doom Buggy. And this is the only ride where you don't pull the bar down yourself. We hear the ghost host saying, please don't pull down the bar. I will do it myself with my ghost magic.
That's what he says. Word for word.
He says ghost magic, yeah. Because we all know about ghost magic. And so now the ride actually starts to go back up. And this is when you're entering the mansion. So it goes up a ramp, and then it goes by this. I'm not entirely sure how they do this trick, but you see a long hallway with a floating candelabra.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how they do that?
Which part?
Mirrors? Just how they make it look like a long hallway that's not actually there.
Yeah, it's mirrors and lighting. If you've ever seen like an infinity table, it's basically it's lit on the inside, and the light bounces off the glass on either side, and it just makes it look like it goes further and further.
And then how do they do the floating candelabra? Is it just on a string?
Probably.
Let's see. So yeah, you see the endless hallway, and there's a suit of armor that's actually like the axe will move up and down. There's a chair that has it's this Wikipedia listed as an abstract face. It's Donald Duck, which you can actually see in the Haunted Mansion, the newer Haunted Mansion movie, which Tony and I liked. To us,
yeah, I think that movie was destined to be hated, but I don't know that anybody actually knows why they hate it.
Putting it out in August was a mistake.
That was, yeah. I mean, if you want to pull people in for a genre movie, you need to focus on the best season to do so.
Well, they couldn't put it out in October because that's Christmas.
That Taylor's heard me speak ad nauseum about my opposition to Nightmare Before Christmas being considered a Halloween movie. I think that notion is ridiculous. I'll spare you guys, but it's not a Halloween movie, so it has no purpose being in Disneyland at Halloween time.
Yeah, and even if it was going to be, then do it like Halloween Town.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to have this, I mean, it's a holiday overlay, so they don't really specify what holiday, but we know.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's irritating because you go there during fall. They do this, I think, probably tail end of August is when they get everything set up. But you go there during fall, and it's made up for fall. Like, you've got Halloween decorations around, and, you go into New Orleans Square, and it's all made up and looks very, fall-ish. And, Halloween decorations to a degree. Nothing that's going to scare the kids, but Halloween decorations. And then you know, it's all like almost walking to this path. It's leading you to the Haunted Mansion that is then just jam-packed with Christmas. It's like, what the fuck?
What are we doing, guys? This doesn't make sense. Yeah, if they want to do the holiday overlay, it needs to start in November. Just bottom line. Okay, so you go through the glass conservatory where there's a casket for some reason. We see this bony hand reaching out and screaming for help.
Get me out of here. So I you know those little golden books, little kids books?
Yeah.
You know, back when we were kids, there was like the Pokey Puppy and, you know, the Little Red Caboose, and those are like those old books. Now they've got a shit ton of them. Like, you got Disney and Marvel and DC and fucking everything you can think of. They've got licenses with damn near everything at this point.
X-Tube, U-Porn.
Sure.
I know these names better than I know my own family.
Susie accidentally walked in on her brother touching himself. Excuse me, stepbrother.
Don't make it weird.
Anyway, so you know, when my son was getting old enough for us to actually start reading things to him and to kind of actually comprehend them, we got a bunch of those golden books, and one of them was a Haunted Mansion one. And
oh, that's cool.
yeah, it was one of them. Turned out to be one of his favorites, which was nice. But it's funny because it's like reading through the book, it describes fairly well the entire ride in order. So yeah, I thought that was cool when I was reading it.
Yeah, like you said, the ones we had when we were kids were not nearly as cool as that.
Right.
So at this point, you go through a hallway full of doors. This is where the very famous wallpaper is. Everybody knows this wallpaper. It's purple with monsters or whatever. These abstract monster designs. And all the doors, you can hear people banging, screaming, you know, let me out, help me, etc. Some of the doors actually kind of like pulse. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah.
And there's a big grandfather clock that you go by, and there's a big shadowy claw that kind of hangs over the top of it. That's kind of creepy.
Dude, so when I was really into like prop making, not so much anymore, but when I was on this prop making website, just people building shit in their garages. This guy made a full-scale replica of that clock.
Really? Did it work?
It was yeah. It was fucking
awesome.
Yeah. Like it glowed and everything. It was fucking sweet.
Did he sell it?
No, he built it for himself.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we've seen a skeletal hand. We've seen a pulsing door. We've seen a shadow of a hand, but we haven't actually seen any ghosts. So when you want to see ghosts, what do? You hold a seance.
Is it called a Ghostbuster?
No, that's after.
Good point.
Now you got to hold a seance. So we enter the seance room. Of course, surrounding the very famous Madame Leota, the head in a crystal ball. And she's saying her incantations. There's tarot cards floating all over. Other mystic nonsense is going on around the room.
This is another... I don't know that this is like an old effect that was used previously. I think this may have been something that was at least in part developed by Imagineers. The technique. Basically, it's a blank mannequin head, essentially, with hair in this glass ball, and they project a face onto it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually an effect that takes place with at least 2 other times in the ride. I always was very impressed by that. I always thought it was really creative.
Yeah, they started doing that with other things though, like the Buzz Lightyear statue outside of Astro Blasters. They started doing that, and it looks bad. Like it's all about context, you know. And so like a big Buzz Lightyear statue, it needs a face. It needs 3 dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
This works because it's in a crystal ball,
right?
And so that kind of, you know, takes away the need for it to actually be physical. But so yeah, Madame Leota's saying her incantations. There's musical instruments floating around and going off. There's a black cat that yells at one point. And so we leave the seance circle and we get to the big money scene, the ballroom.
Money shot.
We're on a mezzanine overlooking this massive ballroom where all these ghosts are just singing and dancing and having a swing and wake. You got, one guy's over there playing the organ. You've got Pickwick up on the chandelier. Yep, he has a name, folks. Like I said, people dancing, people walking around the dining room table, getting food. And this is all done with a trick that's called a Pepper's Ghost. And it's basically just a reflection using light and mirrors, and they just make a reflection that looks physical. And that's really it. There's no, it's not holograms. It's not anything really fancy. It's an old magician's trick from like the 1940s or something.
Yeah, and I mean they were using them in movies, going back to probably the early 1900s. Just before they could do a lot of camera tricks or a lot of CGI of any kind, they did shit like that.
Yeah, and it hasn't changed. They haven't updated this part of the ride to have new technology or anything. It's still just the Pepper's Ghost.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right. There's a hearse crash through the wall. We see ghosts coming out of there. There's one woman who's blowing out a birthday candle, and every time she blows out the candle, the ghosts disappear. And we kind of move on from there. And this is where the Hatbox Ghost is now, right?
Yeah, we go up into the attic.
Yes. I'm trying to make sure I'm not confusing with Florida and make sure, because I don't know how similar the layouts are, so I'm trying to remember which one is which. Because I know in Florida, the Hatbox Ghost is in a completely different place.
Is he? I mean, the Hatbox, I don't know if you wanted to go into that, but the Hatbox Ghost has a pretty storied history of his own.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, the Hatbox Ghost was a trick that they tried to make work back in like the inception of the Haunted Mansion, doing something similar to a Pepper's Ghost. They couldn't get it to work. It just looked like shit.
Yeah,
and
basically,
they tried.
The way that it worked before was that the Hatbox Ghost is holding a hatbox, and his face would disappear and reappear in the hatbox. But the way that they did it was just by shining lights on one or the other. But the problem was the room wasn't dark enough, so you could see both faces at all times.
Anyway, so they scrapped it. They tried to make it work, and ultimately just took it out entirely. And it wasn't until the 2010s.
Yeah, I want to say 2017 or something.
They announced, when technology caught up with the need.
2015.
And they managed to do it with video screens essentially, and that opened up a world of possibilities for not only the Hatbox Ghost but for the bride. They replaced all that with the same kind of technology.
Yeah, I don't remember if it's before or after, but kind of right in that same realm as the Hatbox Ghost, you also see the bride, Constance Hathaway. And I don't know, I don't like the look of the new look of the bride.
No,
they did the video screen face, and they did like a video screen on her torso of her holding the hatchet, and it just doesn't look legitimate enough to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's the hatchet, or the axe or whatever it is, manifests in her hands, rather than her just holding it. And I mean, conceptually, I guess that's kind of cool, but it doesn't look as good as the original. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe that's nostalgia speaking. Couldn't really say.
I don't know, but yeah, to me, and especially everything else in this whole ride really is physical, is 3D. Other than obviously, the Pepper's Ghost or anything like that, but they're not tangible, but they're not just flat. The bride is just flat. Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's contoured, but just the things that are happening, it's just on a screen. And it's just, I would rather just have her holding the axe if that's what it takes. It doesn't need to manifest.
Yeah, before they did that, it was the same kind of trick as Madame Leota, right? Just a projection on her face. Or am I remembering that wrong?
I think you might be right, but I can't really recall. I know they like practically redid the whole ride. I don't know if they completely replaced the animatronic that was there or just altered it, but yeah, it's different. And it just, yeah, like I said, it just stands out to me that it's different than everything else in this ride, and in its display and in its format.
Yeah.
But so at this point, you fall out of the attic, which basically means your doom buggy turns around backwards, and you go backwards down a slight incline. And we see,
like,
I'm falling. We see the gravedigger and his dog, and he's all like, whoa!
And if you're Tony, it breaks down during Christmas or during Halloween time, and a fucking 10-foot tall Jack Skellington talks in your face for fucking 10 minutes.
Yeah, as if it wasn't bad enough that you were like, you were already so salty about it, and then the ride pauses. Which, I mean, if you've ridden this ride, you know this ride pauses so much.
Well, it did. Which is pause. It fucking broke.
Yeah,
they like there were announcements saying, please, they tried to make it as spooky as possible, saying, hey,
yeah, please
don't try to get out.
They say, like ghosts have taken over the doom buggy or whatever, which it cracked me up when they included that in the Muppet Haunted Mansion. But yeah, where the gravedigger is during normal times, there's a big, 10-foot tall, maybe Jack Skellington, and the ride doesn't, like, the doom buggies stop, but everything else keeps going. So here's this 10-foot tall Jack Skellington looking right in Tony's doom buggy, just going, Merry Christmas! Over and over and over again.
I was getting so angry.
And like, since the doom buggies were
mocking me, son of a bitch.
The doom buggies are like, mid-turn as we go around this corner, and so I can look over and see Tony, and he's just like looking at me like, I'm gonna fucking rip this Jack Skellington's head off. But so finally the ride starts going again, and you go around the corner into the graveyard. And this is where everybody knows this song. Grim Grinning Ghosts come out to socialize. And, you actually notice
Tony the Tiger.
Yes. Yeah, the guy who does the voice is the same guy that does the voice of Tony the Tiger.
The original Tony the Tiger. Thurl Ravenscroft.
What a name.
I know, it's awesome.
It's like something out of Harry Potter. But you may notice at this point, or you may have noticed already if you've ridden the ride before, but it's actually the same song that's been playing throughout the ride. It's just very slow, very deliberate, very organ-driven until now, and now it's like da 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 da, and it's all snappy, and this is when they just took every animatronic they had, and they're like, put it in the graveyard. There's shit popping out of behind tombstones and popping out of graves, and there's ghosts singing and dancing, and then there's animals, and there's an owl in the tree, and there's so much going on in this scene. You've got the singing busts, of course, which again is the projection on their face.
And that, I mean, it doesn't look as good on them as it does on Leota.
No,
but it's classic, It's just something that I guess you have to have been there several times throughout your life to just kind of appreciate the nostalgic element of it.
Yeah, this one doesn't bother me. I don't know why the bride bothers me so much and this one doesn't. Maybe it is just nostalgia, but also I feel like having the animatronic trying to sing this would not go well. It would just be a lot of clack, 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 clack. So you got the singing bus, you got the stuck hearse, there's some ghosts on bicycles, there's a beheaded knight and an executioner, there's a mummy.
Which doesn't make any sense. Why is there a knight at this mansion?
I mean, there was the coat of arms earlier.
Yeah, why? I mean, knights went out of fashion before this mansion would have been built. Way before.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of mansions do just have suits of armor to look classy, I guess. I don't know.
Fair enough.
But yeah, why there's actually the ghost of a knight in here, I don't know. But and an executioner, like the execution took place. Why is there a graveyard? Like we're outside the mansion at this point, but why is there a graveyard behind this mansion? Who are all these ghosts? Is this H.H. Holmes's house?
Well, they didn't move the headstones, so.
Oh, that must have been it. Craig T. Nelson.
It's like, this is what happens when you don't move the headstone.
So we pass through the graveyard, and finally we go around a corner, and this is where the famous hitchhiking ghosts hop a ride on in your Doom buggy and go home with you. And they've recently updated this technology, because before it was just kind of like, again, it was just a Pepper's ghost that would just appear, usually in between, if you had two people, it would pop up in between you. If it was just you, it would sit on your lap, basically, unless you sat to the side of the Doom buggy, but that's weird. But now they make it like, it'll take your head off and like swap heads with you. It's bizarre. I don't know how they do this, but
Ghost magic there.
Ghost magic, yes, of course. And then you make your way.
Yes. So the skeleton hitchhiker, they have names, and I can't.
Gus,
Ezra.
Ezra's there's Ezra, Gus, and the other one,
Phineas,
maybe. I don't know. Anyways, what about him?
Yeah, Phineas.
Okay.
So the skeleton, Ezra. His face is actually the exact same skull model as the original Hatbox Ghost.
Oh,
yeah,
that's a fun little tidbit.
Yeah, and if you like, they've got so the Hatbox Ghost that's there now doesn't look exactly like the original because it's it's not the same technology. It's just what's going to happen. But they do have a painting up with the Hatbox Ghost wearing a crown. It's up in the mansion, and that face it's the exact same face as Ezra, and it's the exact same sculpt that they used for both animatronics.
Well, that's fun.
And it's the same thing with like a lot of the faces that they use. You might notice that they look very similar to the ones in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Weird. Yeah, so then you exit your Doom buggy as we hear the Constance telling us to hurry back. And we hear the ghost host telling us to remember our death certificate. And then you leave.
All this takes place in about 7.5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It is one of the longer rides, I think.
Probably. I mean, your whole conception of time is different when you're on a ride.
That's true, yeah. And there's just so much to look at and experience that it is so immersive that you kind of forget how long it's been going on.
Yeah. You forget that you've been standing in line for an hour and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, this one usually has a very long line. This is a very popular ride. It's not an action thrill ride, but it's one of the originals. Well, no, I guess it's not one of the originals because it didn't come out until 1969. But it's
69.
Yep. But it's a classic, and everybody loves the Haunted Mansion. And we talk about on our podcast the iconography of horror movies. And this ride is just littered with them. The wallpaper is the big one. And the Hatbox Ghost, everybody knows the Hatbox Ghost. The bride, the Doom buggy itself, the singing bus, the stretching room.
I mean, you can buy like prints of big poster prints of the characters from the stretching room.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that the newer Haunted Mansion movie did so well was incorporate so much of that iconography, and people shat all over it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like even the velvet rope.
Yeah, the little the guys, the bats, things. And the gargoyles too. The gargoyles in the stretching room that hold the candles.
Mm-hmm.
So much.
Yeah.
And don't worry, they merchandise all of it.
Oh yeah.
What do you got?
I mean, you've seen this.
Oh yeah, the sign. There you go.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, there's that. You can buy those gargoyles.
There was a tiki mug of them that I wanted so bad.
Mm, that would have been cool.
Yeah. So that's kind of it for the Haunted Mansion. As we talked about earlier, they are doing updates on the queue. There's going to be more stuff about, like I think there's going to be more stuff about Gracie. There's going to be more stuff about the one-eyed cat, which is not a strong thing in my mind. I'm not entirely sure where the one-eyed cat comes in.
Me neither.
Yeah, they're adding all this stuff to the queue, so they're making the queue longer is what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. So they don't have to turn so many people away.
And then they're also adding a new gift shop, which is going to be Madame Leota's carriage house.
Which is cool, but Taylor and I had a much better idea.
Yeah, the Disney Treasure cruise ship was recently christened, and inside that there is a Haunted Mansion. I think they call it the Haunted Mansion Parlor, which it's a bar. It's a Haunted Mansion bar, and we're like, do that.
Yeah, this is what they should be building next to the Haunted Mansion instead of another gift shop.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're going to peddle their wares, but which, by the way, the gift shop in Disney World is called Memento Mori, which is that's good. That's good.
But I mean, like, they have these themed gift shops all around the park,
and
that's great. But you can buy all of this shit at the gift shops on Main Street, and so it's like I mean, I know they like you said, they want to peddle shit and make sure people are spending money at all times. But it's like, I think you could be a little more imaginative than just packing every corner, every open space with another gift shop or fucking churro stand, which, I'm not going to argue about churros, but.
Oh, guys, stay tuned for more on churros from me and Tony. We're going to have a whole episode about churros, but not just about churros, a very specific dumb thing that we did involving churros. Yeah, so any last thoughts on the Haunted Mansion?
It's my favorite ride at the park. It always has been.
Is it? Very favorite, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it predates a lot of the new popular rides.
Mm-hmm.
Like Indiana Jones, or I guess Star Tours was probably still relatively new when I started going to Disneyland. But I think Star Tours has a higher height requirement than Haunted Mansion, which I don't think Haunted Mansion has a height requirement, if I remember.
I don't believe so.
So it was just one of those rides that I could always go on, whereas Star Tours I had to be a little older before I could go on it. And I was thinking about older rides that weren't necessarily original, and Indiana Jones. Did I already say that?
You did, yeah.
Okay, well, you get my point. Haunted Mansion's always stood the test of time for me. I've always been a much bigger fan of that ride than anything else, even before my life became as enveloped in horror as it is now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a classic, and it's a classic for a reason. And when it came out, it wasn't based on IP. It was its own IP that became, Disney movies and TV shows and everything else. So it's a great ride. That's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's, a select few rides. Basically, nothing in Fantasyland was original. Everything was based on a movie. Tomorrowland was practically non-existent. I mean, there wasn't much to it at the time. And then, you had Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion. And those were like... Sorry.
And the mountains. Space Mountain. Well, I guess Splash Mountain was always Song of the South, but Big Thunder, those ones.
Yeah. Yeah, not based on anything in particular. Like a Disney film or anything like that. And I don't think that necessarily made it better or worse. It's just, it was nice that there was a time when Disney didn't have to make rides out of existing IPs.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of peddling wares, do you want to go ahead and promote your website and everything?
Sure. Yeah, it's just SkeleTony Art. So it's like skeleton with a Y at the end, and then art.com. Yeah, I'm an illustrator. I do predominantly horror related stuff, but I do comic books and cartoons and shit like that. Yeah, come check it out. Reasonably priced.
And social media?
It's all just SkeleTony art, pretty much everywhere. On Instagram, Facebook, Threads. I don't really post on Threads. I just joined Blue Sky. It seems like Blue Sky is where all people who are leaving Twitter en masse. That's where they're going, is Blue Sky.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering if that's going to maintain, or if they'll just go there and then not post, and end up on some new site, end up on Flagula in 10 years or 10 months.
From what I've seen, it's actually been pretty popular. I mean, I don't have a lot of friends that are on there currently, so people I follow are mainly public figures.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. There's not a lot of public figures on there yet either. Not a lot of brands or anything.
Yeah, but I mean, I think as people are jumping ship from Twitter and moving there, I think the brands are going to follow soon.
We'll see. Anyways, go follow Tony on Blue Sky, guys.
I don't even remember what my Blue Sky. The extensions there are weird and complicated, so I don't follow me there. Once I get it figured out, then follow me.
Okay. And go listen to the Great Plot podcast. It's me and Tony's other podcast. We talk about horror movies, but it's not like it's this. It's just me and Tony bullshitting for 3 hours roughly.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right. Well, Tony, thank you. And thank you for listening. And we will see you next time.
Your attention, please. This episode of Wild Mouse has concluded. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast player, and follow us on social media at Wild Mouse Podcast. Don't forget to visit the gift shop at wildmousepodcast.com. For exclusive bonus content, become a premium pass holder at patreon.com/wildmousepodcast. We hope you enjoyed your time, and will visit us again soon. Thank you, and good night.